Hello, this is Tom for Tabletop Taproom, and we are back like gangbusters. And with me is DM Bloodworth,
Hey
who
everyone.
I asked him on as an expert in
Nice.
gangbusters because I knew he had written an adventure module that I liked. And we have the creator, Mark Hunt. And so we're going to be interviewing Mark about this new edition of Gangbusters that's coming out known as BX Gangbusters. And there we go. So, now there's been a few editions of Gangbusters. There was the original by TSR. That was not like a BX rule system, as I understand it. Am I correct?
That's correct. It was D100.
It was D100.
Well, it was a modified version of D100, but yes.
Okay. Probably something more closer to Star Frontier's D100 mechanics, maybe.
No, actually, the stats were different, but the skill set, they had two ways of generating skills, which was kind of unique. When you first made your character, you rolled percentage dice, and that's what your skill started out at. Say if you wanted to have like auto mechanic, you roll like a 47, that's what it started out at. And then you could raise it up from there by burning experience.
Okay.
It was a little different, and the stats were generated differently.
So, and then Mark, you produced what was called Gangbusters BX, and it said basic across the corner.
Mm-hmm.
It had that trade copy that kind of reminiscent of the basic and expert rule book, Moldvay expert, Moldvay, and so on. So I was really intrigued by this because to me, BX system is kind of to me, it seems like the quintessential fantasy system. It's very easy. It's very fast play. It's very simple. Doesn't bog down. And I just didn't see it as something that would do Gangs of New York and a lot of shooting and stuff. So what led you to make this system to convert Gangbusters over to BX?
Well, I've been playing Gangbusters since it first came out. I've been playing BX since it first came out. So like, peanut butter and jelly, mash them together and make a great sandwich. That's what I did.
Yeah.
It's just my two favorite systems. We're going to mash them and
go. And I figured, I liked it enough. And BX is so flexible, so usable, and it's so many small systems that even people that's playing it enough don't see the potential of it.
Right.
So I decided, you know what? How are we going to do combat with modern stuff? Because that's never even been thought of in BX. So I said, I'm going to tackle it and handle it. And I literally wrote the BX Gangbusters literally on my deathbed when I was going through chemotherapy for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I said, I'm going to do this if this is the last thing I'm going to do on this earth. And that's what I did. And it wasn't the last thing on earth, but I got it done. So that was my inspiration. I'm going to make this work, hook or by crook. And some days I only could type one word in because I was out. Well, I got it done.
I remember my dad going through chemo. I imagine it helped get your mind off of things.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. So that's great. Now, Richard, you actually wrote a whole, and I love this module when I got it off of drive-through, and I went through it. I thought, oh, this was just so smart of him. A bunch of period photographs, a piece of period map, and I thought that just makes this easy. You don't have to go out and get maps. You don't have to go out and get artwork. You were working what my father called work smarter, not harder. And I thought this was really brilliant. And I might need to do this. And then, so tell us a little bit about how that came about.
Well, the first thing I did, like once I came across Gangbusters BX, and I was like, wow, this is really makes the game system accessible to more modern players, right? Because they're familiar with the D&D basic mechanics, So I was like, all right, that's great, because not that the original Gangbusters was a flawed system, but a lot of times TSR was not all that great with some of their different dice mechanic games. I mean, I was a big fan of obviously Star Frontiers. I love that game system. Although the paired attributes was kind of like wonky, in my mind. And then I like TSR's Conan, which was also very similar, D100 system, and I had Gangbusters back in the day, and I was like, but I just liked the fact that it brought it to BX. I was like, all right, much more simple system. Yeah. Then I started looking through this book, and I was like, this is really cool because Mark had included like a system for going to trial, with this. And I was like, so that's that really opened it up to have different outcomes, and so I was like, all right, I definitely have to write an adventure, for this. Because at the time, it was probably like 2019 or so when I first came across it. Let me double check and see if I'm right. Yeah, so 2019 is when I first came across it. And my adventure I wrote in 2020. So I got to work really fast, and, I wasn't retired yet either. So it was a pretty quick thing because the system is that easy to utilize, So I am a retired, U.S. history school teacher, right? So I'm sitting there and I was like, I want to incorporate, as much history as I can. I want to make it as authentic as I can for the time period that I'm writing it in. And so that's where I was like, I have to use period art. And period art, by the way, is it's free, right? Because it's public domain and everything like that. So sometimes I grab from Chicago instead of New York City or whatever. But, as long as it wasn't obviously Chicago, I used it. And then it just had so much atmosphere ready to go into it, like in the adventure, I made sure that it was like, I added the line, let's be careful out there because I'm a big Hill Street Blues fan. Right. So, and I was like, how do I not incorporate this? Now, my other thing is that I was almost a police officer. I mean, that was the other possible career path for me when I was with the, U.S. Army military police. And, I was in my early 20s and I was like, which way am I going to go, with my civilian life? And so the police was always a good possibility because I was with a military police unit and everything. And the early 90s New York City was not exactly a great place to be, So I was like, you know what, maybe not. And then I ended up being a New York City school teacher, which wasn't all that much better, but it was still, probably a little bit better. And, so I ended up incorporating everything that I really love, whether it be history or, police and all of that kind of stuff, and incorporated it. And the system made that easy. All right. And that's why I really appreciate Mark for how he put it together, because it just made that easy to do.
Well, Mark, so the character, I was thinking about this today because I was trying to marshal my thoughts earlier in the day. With BX, you had classes like elf and dwarf. So clearly you don't have any, it's just only one race, the human race. And what kind of, how do the classes work with this? I assume it's, cops, gangsters, gamblers, that sort of thing.
Yeah, things like that. What it is, since it's not, you could play, say, for instance, I have a tough guy. He's a roughneck, a tough guy. So you can play him as a cop, or you can play him, it depends on your alignment. Mm-hmm. In the alignment, it's like you're good, lawful, or you're like, in the middle of like normal citizen.
Yeah.
So that would determine how you play your guy. If you want to be a crook, you play him as a crook. And you're going to get the crook results because that's going to be your alignment as a crook, but you still can be a tough guy. Or you could be a newspaper reporter and still play him as a crook. And it's different factions of how, it's not really class, it's more aspects of your character.
Okay.
Is your character educated? You could be educated crook. You could be educated cop or a G-man or whatever, how you want to put it out. And then you just put your role-playing element into it, because it's not like you create a bunch of stats and you do it. It's BX. It's the play occurs at the table, not on your character sheet.
Right.
All right,
They give you
Mark.
enough information where you can play it how you wish.
I officially love Mark because he said that the play occurs at the table, not on the character sheet.
Right, right. Going beyond the character sheet is so much more prevalent, I think, in simpler systems because it forces you to do that, and that's a great positive in my point of view.
Well, no, another thing I'll add, and I was security police was like MP in the Air Force.
Hmm.
So I understand his background, of course, and then I was a deputy sheriff here. So that same background as we go back and
Right,
forth. So it's real easy to draw a lot of stories, different things.
right,
And so I'm gonna give you this. When you go to create Gangbusters, it's simple, but the number one inspiration, if you're looking for things to do, is go down to your local library and go back, look up events in the 1920s in your city. I
Mhm.
guarantee you there will be some prohibition related stuff there.
Yeah,
Every
absolutely.
single city in America, you will find something that
Yeah.
you can draw from. You got 13 years from 1920 to 1932. You got something there you can find.
Right.
If you can't make a story out of that, don't know what to do for you. Even if you're playing a reporter investigating the crooks or investigating the cops, or you could even, like I say, with the rule system for like law and things like that, you could do law and order, where one guy's a cop, the other guy's in the court system. All that's possible with just the basic rules.
So how does it work if you're playing good guys and bad guys at the same table? I mean,
All
they're
right.
not really part of the same player character party.
You can do one or two ways. Someone can be undercover.
Oh,
Someone can be infiltrate the police. It's like they say in Untouchables. If you're scared of getting the rotten apple, what do? Go to the source. So you can have something like that, or someone can be infiltrating. Or what I do, because I've been known to have a large group. I've had up to 34 players.
oh my goodness.
Wow.
So what I do, I like good guys meet on Tuesdays, bad guys meet on Wednesday sometimes, and reporters in between. And I keep tracks of notes a week at a time. So I know who's at this place at 2 o'clock on Friday and who's here, who's there, and I keep track on the calendar. And then when the bad guys go back from Monday through Wednesday, now when we go back for the cops, we go back to the other side, start on Monday. I know where the bad guys are going to be throughout the week. And then if we run across it, then I arrange for times where I get both people together. It might be a police raid or a cop shootout or whatever, and good versus bad. And they might cross. And then players know something's going on when they come over and it's like 20 people and they're like, okay, something's going down big time because now all the players are here. Either we're going to get caught, either we're going to jail, or we're going to shoot a whole lot of people. So what I try to do is you can do it that way, separate it, or you can run parallel stories. Cover from one side. They don't even have to be in quote the same story. One could be escaping from the police, other one could be leading down something else. And then eventually they might cross. But remember, your players are smart and they know, well, yes, they'll pay attention, but if they're not supposed to cross, they won't cross. But eventually they'll try to, a lot of times you'll see quote unquote infighting. It's usually the bad guys trying to figure out a way to get to the good guys trying to figure out how way to get to the bad guys. And if you play it smart over time, it meshes and it works together. Party unity is kind of weird.
There are players out there who and I'm thinking of one particular guy in my gaming group back in Boston who always said to me, I only play evil characters. And, it sounds to me like there's a lot of scope here for playing somebody who's undercover, whether it's a cop undercover
Right.
or a gang member infiltrating the police type of thing. Or, even in Richard's module there where you had a political party that was kind of outside of what you expected,
Right.
being the ultimate bad guys funding what was going on at Whiskey Creek. So it sounds like there's a lot of scope for that type of player to be, I want to be a little subversive. So this is the kind of player I want to play. And I don't normally like that in a fantasy group, but it certainly is something that goes hand in glove with this genre.
Well, another thing is think of this is BX based. Technically, how it's written, you literally can take anything that's designed for BX and plug it directly in if that's how you want to play your game.
Right.
When I say anything, I mean literally anything that's BX based will mesh right in perfectly with almost zero modifications.
So
if you want to have wizards, go for it. If you want to have
a sea serpent,
it's possible.
The abominable snowman from Canada.
Yeah.
And you could, but you know what?
You could.
I mean, people don't realize even they had it's pulp, Gangbusters pulp, because in the they even wrote a magazine in the magazine article of I think it's forget the name of the PGA, the one they had. They did where they go investigate giant locusts that was attacking the farm.
Mm.
It was actually a module for when you did that. In Gamma. Wow. In Gamma, it occurred in.
Oh, in Gamma. Yeah.
In Gamma. It was a Gamma magazine, one of the few. That's two of them in there. But yeah, one of the Gamma magazine stories. You go out to the farm and end up investigating these giant locusts that attack the farm, things like that. So it has pulp elements involved in there. So it wasn't like it didn't occur back then. It's part of TSR's legacy. It was in the system. Yeah. So I had that kind of possible to add to it. So I figure I create stitches where you can take the game how you see fit. You can play it straight. You can play it comical. You can play it however you want to run it. There's room to tailor the game to fit your need.
Yeah, you could do a lot of those 1950s, black and white or even earlier, sci-fi movies like, giant ants and locusts and everything. We've all seen those things, right? Yeah. And the cops go out there with their Tommy guns and everything. The first Them was it Them, right? Is the giant ants. And, you could definitely mash in there,
you got the stats of giant ants. Element. You got the dinosaurs.
Yeah. Yeah, you got
I've run like in the salt marsh. I've run that straight.
Right. Like Mark said, I mean, you can take stuff directly from, the D&D BX, rule book, and throw those in there and it'll work. The system itself, the core system is the same. So it does work out that way. Yeah. Another thing I wanted to, tag on with what Mark was saying was that, in my adventure, I did the same thing where, you could play a somewhat dirty cop too, and get to different story conclusions by playing it a little dirty, a little bit fast and loose with the thing. So you could be a chaotic officer, still ultimately working towards getting the bad guy, but you're going to be kind of like Dirty Harry-ish about it, and less Serpico about it, kind of thing. You're gonna cut some edges, so cut some corners, in order to get there. But there could be a consequence to cutting those corners, and again, that goes to also what Mark was saying was, in that case, you're going beyond the character sheet, and then that's really, really important to just think outside of the box. You can play it straight, as intended, or you can play it a little bit fast and loose and still have a great time with it. And again, it goes to the system being so versatile.
Well, the one reference you guys didn't make that jumped out at me was Orson Welles and War of the Worlds.
Yes.
And because a few years ago it was a war game came out called Tripods and Triplanes, and I was like, oh, that's brilliant. And because I love World War I aerial combat games, heavily invested myself. But wow, War of the Worlds, you could mix in the sci-fi elements if you wanted. Really easy.
Triffids, I know Mike mentioned the Triffids as well. They had the Triffids. You could do that. That would be an awesome one too. Or you could play like I don't recall any like real like street cop 1920s street cop TV shows. Maybe Mark might know of a few. I mean, I came along a little bit later, obviously, with like things like Car 54 and Adam 12, more so Adam 12 than car, 54, and then certainly with like Hill Street Blues kind of thing. You're holding up something.
This one's Cloaked Vigilantes.
Cloak Vigilantes.
You remember Batman came out around that time.
Yeah.
Zorro, The Shadow,
the world's greatest detective.
Yeah.
All those guys were Cloaked Vigilantes. And they came out during the end as a direct answer to Prohibition toward the end of it.
And I would rip off stuff like Mickey Spillane, Mike Hammer, kind of thing.
That's perfectly for that.
Dick Tracy's from that time period, roughly as well, with a lot of tech thrown in there too. Right? Dick Tracy was pretty high tech, for some of the things they were doing. So yeah, I mean, there's so much cool stuff that you can do with Gangbusters. A real quick question unless Tom, you're going to ask about this.
All right.
So, what is coming in the expanded that goes beyond what the basic rules goes, Mark?
The different expanded books that's coming in the pipeline is so much stuff. You're gonna be, like I said, I'm trying to, because I'm gonna refer you basically over to, because Friday we're gonna go into really depth, because that's when I got a big interview with Tin Car. We're gonna be doing a lot of stuff, and the public's going to be there. But I'll just give you, guys, a little tip. We're going to have more expansion, more city, the Rock Junction, just massive. It's almost a whole book by itself.
Right.
Nice.
It's big enough that the core book I cover hundreds of locations, places, people. It's things. When you look at it and read it, if you can't find an adventure clue, there's probably 200 or 300 adventure leads in it, just built into it. There's monsters, which are the bad guys. There's more expanded, those guys. It's more rules, more classes. New classes are coming in, extended, more stuff, more equipment. It's massive. It's just so much stuff. It's almost impossible to cover it all without giving everything away. Which I want a little bit of time. You gotta drip, you guys, because we got 2 weeks, and we got to make it to 2 weeks. So when the review comes out, they'll be like, I didn't know that was in there. I didn't know that was in there.
So, maybe a good analogy might be this expansion is going to be like the master and companion rules for BX, the whole BECME, basic expert. So it's more like just expanding it like that, and that's kind of exciting. How many pages will the new book be?
The core book will be around 80 or so.
So
this one here is exactly 64 pages. So that one will be about 80 or so, maybe, depends on the final layout stuff, but could be more. I just tried to cut it down and give you all the best stuff. And then, like I said, we have Welcome to Rock Junction, The Hustler's Guide to Rock Junction. Then we got different books that's coming along with it. There's a lot of add-ons. It's just, put it this way, I got 35, 40 years worth of play notes and time and books. I could probably put something out every quarter. So it's not like once we get the core book out, then I can just build on it and expand on it, build on it, expand on it.
Now this is
a lot of stuff coming.
This is going to debut at WizardCon.
Yes.
All right. So this is not even doing Kickstarter. It's like, here it is, buy it. You're not even investing and hoping you get a fulfillment. You can just buy it within a week here.
Yep. Plus, we'll also have PDFs available too. We're going to up on the. We're going to have a website. We're going to announce, so it's going to be there, so you can buy it directly and get it shipped to you. So you don't have to worry about it's coming from American source. Comes straight to you. There you go.
Because I think, for myself, I like to have at least the core books in hard copy, so I can have them open on the table. And adventures and support material, I can deal with it in PDF. I've slowly, begrudgingly gone, look, I'm just going to put a lot of my library in digital, and my hypocrisy has kind of gone there. My hypocrisy knows no bounds. So there we go. But definitely am very excited about this, and Now, you said you could do a trial.
Yes.
Now, how does that work? How does doing a trial in game work? Because I'm
Well, you
intrigued by that.
you have stats for your lawyer,
Hmm.
how well they are, how well they versed in the law, the evidence collected, the jury, try to sway the jury, whether or not you get placed on bond or not. And then, your jury trial, you got your favor. Okay, you present the evidence, they got evidence against you, defense. And before you know it, you're either convicted or not. And then you even got sentencing, how much time you're going to end up getting locked up.
Oh,
And of course, if you get locked up, that makes a good case for an escape or a prison break.
Yeah.
We got to go get Uncle Louis out. He's been locked up. We can't let that happen.
So there was a comment, and I didn't have a chance to draw attention to it. I think it was this guy named Judd. Where are you, Judd? Goswick made a comment about it being Bronstein for police.
Yeah.
And it seems like the way where this is going is this is really a wide-ranging kind of a thing.
Yeah. I tried to make a central spoke so we can play Gangbusters several different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're playing BX, you literally can take your fantasy game and determine, okay, he's caught. So now I can use the elements out of Gangbusters to do a fantasy trial and have that happen. What happens when this happens? How to control area parts of the town. What it looks like running a beer operation. All those are covered in there. So like, okay, I'm going to set up a shop. Boom, here's the rules for that. I'm going to, run a criminal enterprise. There's rules for that. All these different elements are there, and you can pick and choose what you need. Like, for instance, I'm going to run a thieves guild. Okay, well, I have elements for running a criminal enterprise. I'm going to get my BX book out, Gangbusters, and run that. Pull that out to put in my fantasy game. So I designed it where it's plug and play. Because I always like to pay where it says, on page B9, you can take it out, put another page B9 in, and that's how I wanted to have that same feel in my initial book. But this one, I'm going to expand a little bit so people can go, oh, okay, I can see how I can use this. So even if you're quote unquote not into modern systems, there's still things in there that's useful at your table.
Nice. And, I imagine that there's also some room for doing some swag that if you're running a convention game and everybody's police officers, you could actually get period police badges.
Yeah.
Just for some swag at a convention game. I'm sure there's lots of room for that as well.
Plus, I got like whiskey flask you can hand out to people. On it. There's a lot of stuff coming up. T-shirts. You'll see. It's a lot of good things coming down the pipe.
Nice. So you've actually planned a whole line of product to go along with this.
Yes.
The Wizard Tower games.
A couple. I'm looking at working on a Choose Your Own Adventure murder mystery.
Oh,
nice.
And also a novel, a little book. Like the old fantasy. Remember the TSR had the little venture novels that Gary.
Right. Yeah.
I'm looking at a couple of those, even having those made.
Yeah. Just don't call it Endless Quest.
Well, it won't be. I didn't say nothing close to that.
You might get sued.
Yeah.
I don't even come close to that.
Yeah. Endless Quest, Endless Journeys, whatever, Legendary Journeys, Legendary spelled differently. It's like
don't worry, I have a name for
all those things.
Right.
All right. So and the fact that you're doing a core book, you just buy the core book. It's not the whole TSR model of going back to 4th edition where it's Player's Handbook 1, Player's Handbook 2, Player's Handbook. And these are all hardcover. You're dropping big bucks on, and then it's Monster Manual 1, Monster Manual 2. The Dungeon Master's Guide 1. I was just looking for my Dungeon Masters. Somebody had came to me with a comment about something, so I went to look it up in the 4th edition. I can't find my Dungeon Master's Guide 2. Must be in the basement or something. But and even now with 5th edition, there's just this bloat of hardcover books.
Right.
And, I like that it's just a nice 80-page. Boom, here you go. and lots of support. Because that's always a failing sometimes. You see a new rule system, you get excited about it, you sign on, and there's not much support for it, So
there'll be more support out between now and Gen Con. You'll be like, okay, stop.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's also probably, you probably take some of the stuff you already have on like drive-through, because you have a whole bunch of stuff on drive-through that you can port over to the new rules with probably very little modification needed. Because I mean, you have a ton of things there. Not to mention Tall Tales BX, which I'm sure you can port that over to. But you have Big Little Town. You have For the Hard Way. You have a whole number of Joe's Diner and such. So are those going to be incorporated into the second, like a supplemental rule book, or are they going to be part of the core rule book?
Some are. I have to defer to my, the editor, how he's laying out different stuff. But I always felt that Joe's Diner should be part of the core book.
Yeah.
Because Joe's Diner is it's probably my best seller and adventure thing, because it fits and it just lays out what you need to get started. Because it's the proverbial we meet at a tavern.
Right.
You go to the diner, everyone's there, the cop comes through, there's always something going on at the local diner. So you go there, hang out, and it fits the theme.
Mm-hmm.
They're like this one, this is Tall Tales. This is my BX Western.
Mm-hmm.
So this is also designed to be 100% plug and play, because a lot of cowboys lived all the way up till the Prohibition era. Eddie Oakley, Bart, all those guys, they were New York. They did sports commentations. They drove around. You could find them. So you could still run across these guys in the 20s and play all the rules out of here directly into that. So there's a lot of cross play that you can do.
So you can actually take
this in one little area. Well, you can open it up. Plus, I'm gonna say this: I have a section that I'm working on. Let you in now. This is gonna be a scoop for you guys. I'm doing a Hong Kong expansion.
Hong Kong expansion. Wow.
So Big Trouble in Little Chinatown in 1920 Hong Kong.
Wow.
Wow, that's gonna be awesome.
So I'm more and more excited, because when I looked at Richard's module, I was like, oh, I want to write one of these.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to hook up with the publisher and we can work something out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think I know who the publisher is.
Yeah. That's why I said it that way.
I'm sure he'll let me.
We can work something out.
So now you all set for WizardCon, which is coming up?
I'm all set. Of course, I'm steady writing more stuff, but yeah, I'm always writing more stuff.
Oh, nice. And
so yeah, I think we're all set. We just got to, get through this next week or so, interviews, get some hype out, get some more people, get people ready to throw some mad cash at the screen when it comes out, and I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Now, Hong Kong. Here, let me show this comment. Hong Kong in the 20s and 30s. You know what that reminds me of right away is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. That opening. I mean, right there. Just steal from that. I mean, I'm pressing the wrong buttons here.
Should be purchasable online on the 25th. We should have everything up that day that we go live at the convention. You should be able to go on and order it that day.
Nice.
If everything goes right, but the publisher, as long as everything goes according to plan, that should be what I believe should be the case.
Approximately.
We'll have more information on that come Friday.
Approximately what's the selling point?
We're going to leave that till Friday.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I gotta save something for the next place.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. Well, because we were on a video together last week, and I went, "Hey, Mark, can I interview you?" And then I reached out to GM Bluddworth and said, "Hey, you're more of an expert on this than me. Let's join me on the interview." So Great time, guys. I am really excited. I'm really stoked. I will, I'll double check with the good wife, but we'll probably be ordering it as soon as it goes live, just to get a copy of the rules. And it's certainly something I'd like to play around with and play in. And I mean,
let me say, what I would love to do is do some kind of organized play where guys go out and, run some at different conventions. Yeah, if we get enough interest in that, I'll be like, okay, I'll come up with some stuff and then have ventures that these guys go out and run. So like I say, it all depends on how well it's received. Everything goes good. We'll know more that week. And if people express interest, we can come up with something that people, because I know a lot of people, you'd be surprised how many people play Gangbusters. You'll be really surprised. There's a lot of people have a lot of interest in it.
I've run it about 6 or 7 times at conventions over the last couple of years. My adventure, I've run it at least 7 times, and virtually every time there was a different way to get to the one of 3 conclusions that you could basically have. So it was a very dynamic, really depended on who was in the group and how they chose to go about it and everything like that. And it's a really good con game, and it's especially if you're writing your own adventures for it. I think it works really well in cons when because con adventures, and I'll let Mark talk about this too, and probably Tom, if you're familiar, but adventures at a con table are either written very differently or at least run very differently for a convention setting, and I'll let you expand upon that.
Sure. Well, you can write like con adventures. You can use one-off characters or put them in like some crazy scenarios. Like for instance, I had run one where it was the Joker, the Penguin, all the Batman villains,
right?
And they were out to go rob a train. So of course, like the Joker gave him the dynamite, gave the Penguin, all the different stuff. So they had all the tools. It's whether or not how they're going to figure out how to work together long enough to get it done. And of course, craziness ensues.
Yeah.
Nothing like giving, dynamite to the Joker and watch, okay, your job is to blow the safe. You know what that's going to lead to? Chaos. So yeah, you can do all these different things like that with con games.
So here's an important point. Wizard Tower Games is putting a 1.5 OGL license on it, and my understanding is it's fairly generous and easy to work with. It's not, in light of the recent OGL problems. But this license is out there, some minimal requirements for you, and you can publish. You can I believe you can self-publish on drive-through.
Oh yeah.
But also I know that Wizard Tower is providing through their publishing. They're also saying, hey, you got something? We can do the layout work for you. We can help you source art. We can help you get your product to market. So they're also a huge resource to look at. If you're excited and interested in, not just Gangbusters, it could be a basic expert fantasy module that you just. I've been running this thing, and here we are with his comment. Yes, you can. And this is such an easy thing to write for. I mean, Dan Bluddworth, you mentioned the library, going to the library. I was at the Boston Public Library digging through their microfiche and looking at newspaper articles from the 1860s for a piece of writing I was doing. And you find the just most funny, unique things that go, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's something I can work with. And so, just digging through the microfiche and the microfilm for the newspaper articles from the 1920s and 30s would probably be loaded with material of just craziness.
Yeah. And you have all the pulp magazines from back in the day as well, and you have all those huge authors, Robert E. Howard, or you can include Lovecraftian with NYPD if you want to. I mean, you can get like all kinds of mix-ups, that will just, introducing DC comic heroes and everything. Because like Mark said earlier, they all started out as vigilantes. I mean, Batman was a brutal killer. I mean, he was a vigilante in the way that, most people don't even think of vigilantes anymore. He was a brutal killer of criminals out there. And, so that's something that you can incorporate into this as well, is that you can cross genres with this game system.
Oh, just Call of Cthulhu mixed in with this would be really a cool game, I think.
Yeah.
That's one thing I don't mix in, but just up to you guys. In case I don't. But what I usually do, if you want to go watch an episode of the Rockford Files and take that case and how can you put in the 1920s or Kojak or any of those old detectives. It's dozens of detective shows that you could just say, all right, we take this, watch the episode, take some notes, and run an adventure through it. It's always it's always a way.
Yeah.
You don't even have to watch the show. You can just go find the outline of the plot online.
Mm-hmm.
Just go, all right, here we go, and then and you just start converting and writing, and off you go.
Yeah, that's the best thing about it, because the players are gonna, like I said, you can write so much, but no adventure ever never survives contact with players. They're gonna do something crazy.
Yep.
Right.
Especially at a con, because people are like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Tom, Roger put up something about his con if you want to throw that up there.
So I got a convention coming in June, and I know some of the people would be down to play. Roger, what's your con, and where's it located? And
that's the Central New York RPG Con.
Okay.
It is in, I keep on saying Utica because that's really the big town or city right next to it, but it is officially New Hartford, New York. So don't confuse it with Hartford, Connecticut. It's New Hartford, New York, and that con is June 14th and 15th. And I will definitely be there. Just got that past the wife yesterday. It was like, oh, by the way, I'm going to a con. I'm just going to be gone one day, and she was like, oh, okay, all right, it's only one day, So I was like, yeah, it's like, originally she was saying, well, you can come home. I was like, it's like 3.5 hours or 3 hours away. I'm not leaving at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, and getting home at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, no, I'm going to sleep over and then run a game in the morning. And then, so yeah, it's going to be a great time. I'm really looking forward to that. And I wish I had room to run Gangbusters there. I'm already kind of slotted for my 3 game sessions, and I want to squeeze in
some shopping.
Joseph Block's miniatures game, in between. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Nice. Well, Don Morris says he's going to be there.
Yeah, he's going to be there.
And we gotta make sure we have some available so you guys can purchase some new books up there. So if people run some, it's got to be. It's always a way.
Yeah. I'll definitely bring it along and see. Yep. Yeah, it's right behind my head. Yeah, it's right in my hand. I will definitely. I'll definitely bring it along because you never know. Sometimes you get a pickup game or something and run it. The last time I ran it, like I said, it was awesome. I had Jeffrey Talanian's daughter actually played in my game, so she was like the youngest player I think I've ever had, and she was phenomenal with it. I mean, she was like, looking to investigate and everything. I mean, meanwhile, another player was playing kind of like the dirty cop, and
nice.
But she was really zoned in on it, and did a great job of it. I was super nervous because I have, Jeffrey Talanian. Anytime you're dealing with someone's daughter and they're in the room, it's like, oh, I hope this thing goes well. But she was fantastic with it, and that's the other thing. I mean, Gangbusters is for all ages. You know, you could obviously tone it down, so have a little less gunplay or whatever. But it is all ages. Anything BX is pretty much, PG and above. You're fine.
10, 12,
PG and below,
11-year-old.
you're fine.
10, 12, 11-year-olds love playing Cops and Rogers, as I remember it from back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you a little story. Like when I first came out, when I first got the book done, I made 60 copies with me. I said, I'm going to go to Gary Con.
Wow.
And I had 60 copies. I said, oh, yeah, this will last me all weekend. I'll probably have to take some home or whatever. I literally sold out before the convention opened.
It's
before the first day while waiting in line. People knew me. It seemed like I had the one I had for me. I sold because the guy made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So I was running the game from memory most of that the whole weekend. So don't be surprised if you show up to these conventions and you have a couple of people try to buy it from you.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Because people see it. Oh, I remember that game. I haven't seen that in 20 years or things like that. And they're just go for it. There's a lot of people in a lot of different places had Gangbusters and never had opportunity to play it because their group didn't want to play that besides D&D. But now you're able to grab those in, but the mechanics are familiar enough. Right. I want to learn a new system. Well, this is not a new system. And they got it.
You can
draw a lot more people now. You'll be surprised how many people want to play.
I seem to remember one Christmas picking up the little vehicles. They were like 28 millimeter scale, police car and a taxi and stuff. They were for a Christmas village, but they were set in the 1920s, 30s. And I just thought those would be good for a Cthulhu game at some point. They're the right era. But I'm like, I got to go dig those out because that police car is going to be perfect for this. And I gotta go look it through my miniatures now. You've got me on a mission now. I'm gonna have to go look for some stuff.
Yeah, Matchbox cars are almost to scale for 28 millimeter. The 25, no, the 25 they are. Yeah. They'll fit right there. So you can find the old Model Ts and different cars and ready to go.
Yeah, so I've got some stuff out there. I mean, how often do you buy Christmas terrain and bring it to the wargaming table?
Right.
But I did get these. I thought I get them now because you won't see them again. And
well, see, you can use a train, put it up the train like that, tracks and the train, the car block. You can all kind of stuff you can use. Banks, all kind of. You'd be surprised what you can make and put on there.
Oh, you could use railroad terrain honestly. Yeah. So.
Yeah, cops and robbers. Like I say, I don't believe in that fantasy stuff. Well, excellent. And here's the thing: when you start someone new in role playing, cops and robbers, you don't have to explain it. It's like, oh, this is an elf, and everyone knows. He grabbed his pistol. I don't have to describe it. You know what it is. Boom in your head. Try 38. All right, he's being chased by the bad guy. Everyone's seen a cops and robbers movie from a kid, so everyone knows what the elements are. So you don't have to steer nobody. They're like, oh, okay, got it. That you might have to remind people. Well, that's not invented yet. That's not how. You can't run his background check because that's not invented yet.
But you can pistol whip.
You sure can. You can get in the 3rd degree in the back room. That's why I have to roughen that table.
My dad described seeing somebody pistol whipped in Thailand during the Vietnam War, and it was that the bot bus driver had ripped him off for his change, and he was swearing. And a cop came up on a bicycle and asked him what happened. He says, "You wait here," and he came back on his bicycle, leading the bot bus driver, which was like a Datsun pickup, and pulled the guy out and was pistol whipping him across the face with a loaded and cocked gun. And my father's like, you knew not to you don't lay hands on the Thai police. And he's like, no, it's okay. Cause it was like $1.20 that he didn't get back in change. And he's like, he's trying to talk about, he says, please, no. I forgive him. And for the rest of the Vietnam War, when that bot bus driver saw my dad, he made him ride for free in his taxi. But yeah, I've never forgotten that story. It's just right across the because you hear pistol whipping, and I didn't know what it meant. Then my dad told me about what he had seen. I was like, oh, that's what pistol whipping is. Okay, so things were different back then. But a few more comments.
Yeah, they played a little fast and loose. That's for certain. Different time when the nightstick. I don't even think police officers carry nightsticks anymore.
They carry the ASP. ASP as an extendable baton. Whip it out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's the difference. Yeah.
Well, you know where nightsticks were first developed was in Massachusetts, and the cops would go to the furniture manufacturers, and they got a lathe, and so they would just and so you have these period nightsticks. They're all different, because it's a different guy making it on the lathe, and just a piece. It was a piece of furniture leg, and it was just done down as a nice little club to thump somebody. So, well, we've gone close to an hour, and a lot of comment, and I think there's a lot of excitement. And Mark, I'm certainly looking forward to your interview on Friday night. Is that with Glenn Hallstrom?
Yeah, he's going to be there also. Yes, and Don's going to be there also.
Because I know Glenn Hallstrom likes to run Gangbusters at, I believe, North Texas. He's kind of famous for that. So that should be a great interview. And I'm really looking forward to this. I'll probably bug Don and say, hey, can I get a sneak peek, or can I get an early copy? Here's just shut up and take my money. Now, will this one last thing though? Will this book will it be in hardcover? Will there be a hardcover or just paper bound edition?
We're trying to shoot for both. The hardcover is probably going to be limited edition for a little while, but probably overall most of them will probably be soft binding. But we'll talk more about that. What's available for then.
Well, I might have to jump on that limited edition and just, carry it around at conventions, see if somebody makes me an offer.
Yeah,
they probably will.
I'll probably end up going with both, but I'm more of a soft cover, person. So I just take some less room on the shelf. But
I printed this version up myself. This is a one of a kind single for player. When I run, you'll see me with this. This is one of one.
Yeah, nice.
I had a lot of people offer me crazy money for this, and I know
no.
Crazy money. I'm like, nah, I can't do it. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm talking 1 and 2 weeks worth salary worth money.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, Dan Bluddworth, thanks for coming on the show. And
thanks for having me, and thanks for the invite and everything. Great to meet you, quasi in person, Mark. I know we've chatted over, message on Facebook for quite some time, and thank you for your generosity and let me write that adventure back in 2020. So that was, that's one of my better sellers on Drive-Thru RPG as well. So, I appreciate your generosity in that. And I'm looking forward. I've been asking for a while, just waiting for this thing because I want to write more for Gangbusters BX. And so now with
that's the history teacher in you.
Yeah, now with Don picking up that, I'll be reaching out there too. I was like, all right, let me know about this OGL, and so I could start writing. And I'm certainly going to be looking for 2026 and running it at conventions, because that will be one of my 3 games that I'll be running in 2026.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, my 2025 is booked. I'm sorry. 2026 is come. Although actually, I don't think ShireCon has put out their list yet. So maybe ShireCon in September will be a possibility.
Well, I'd like to say thank you for allowing me the opportunity to help get the word out a little further. And hey, the more people would know about Gangbusters when it's coming out, the better.
Yes.
I want to take off like Gangbusters. I want a lot of people, a lot of books, a lot of stuff. And we can just make things happen.
That was the point of the clickbait title. We're back like gangbusters. I've been a little bit missing in action doing videos, and so it was kind of a play on words for me being back like gangbusters, but also Gangbusters BX is back like gangbusters, and it's really, really exciting. So with that, I think we will sign out. Thank you, everybody in the chat. There was a lot of comments, a lot of activity. Thank you, Don, some more for all the support and the back end information you provided. And thank you, Mark and DM Bluddworth, for coming on and helping out. And again, keep on gaming.